Let's look at some common cards because it is time for common knowledge. Are any of these good in Pauper? I have no idea. Most of them will not be, probably. But let's hit randomize and see what we get. We will start with Mardu Rune Mark for 2 and a red for an enchantment that is an aura that enchants a creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and enchanted creature has first strike as long as you control a white or black permanent. Kind of interesting. Costs too much, right? 3 mana for +2/+2 and first strike. The first strike's conditional, but I don't think you'd really have a problem with this. I think Boros kind of decks are probably going to be something that are interested in this because obviously they're playing white permanents. And Boros generally is the guild that is more about equipments and auras and doing things like that. So I don't hate it outside of the normal reasons we generally hate auras or enchantment auras like this. But I don't know. It's all right. You put this on a Boros colored card. You put this on a white creature. In fact, screw it. You got a little white weenie, and then you give it +2/+2 and first strike because it is the white permanent. I have a modifications deck list, and I'm getting the cards for it still. This card is not in it, mostly because it costs too much. Also because I haven't seen it. I just totally missed out. But I think the reason I missed out is because when I was searching Scryfall for this, or for cards for it, I was looking for auras that cost 2 or less. And so this doesn't show up. And because I think this is too expensive for that kind of a deck. We'll give this a 2.2. Which is the stat line it gives, but I think that's fair. I think it is a relatively powerful card, but the cost does scare me away. Next up, an oldie and a goodie. Look at that. Well, an oldie, not necessarily a goodie, actually, but goodie because I love it. Land Leeches is 1 in double green for a 2/2 leech. It's got first strike. Not very good, is it? It's not particularly good. I also don't really know why the leeches have first strike. I guess it's because if they're like the ones we see here, they're like in the grass, so they catch you off guard. Let's read the text here, the flavor text, and see. Standard cure for leeches requires the application of burning embers. Alternative methods must be devised should an ember of sufficient size prove more harmful than the leech. So that doesn't really tell you why it has first strike, but I guess it does tell you how to deal with leeches. This is not very good outside of the incredible Quentin Hoover art. Congratulations to Quentin Hoover, who knocks it out of the park. I will give this a 1.5. That's too high, but I'm sticking with it. Razor Rings is a new card from Avatar: The Last Airbender and Avatar: The Last Airbender Eternal. Interesting that it was printed in both sets. Razor Rings is 1 and a white for an instant. Razor Rings deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. You gain life equal to the excess damage dealt this way. Normal magic card. Normal white removal spell. You see a lot of these dealing damage to attacking or blocking creatures. That is the kind of condition that white is able to get this style of removal. I've never loved this style of removal. It's an interesting little combat trick, I suppose, adding a bit of life gain on this, but probably not a heck of a lot of life gain. I don't know. I don't really like it. 2 mana to deal 4 damage sounds pretty good. Red would love that, but having it be conditional like this, it's not awesome. I think you can pretty safely give this something like a 1.6, and you know what? I'll give it a 1.7. I guess it's not good though. Don't worry about it. That is splitting some hairs. Carfell Kennel Master is 4 and a black for a 4/4 zombie berserker. When this creature enters, up to 2 target creatures each get +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn. That sounds all right. But a 5 mana 4/4, it's not amazing. 5 mana though, but you kind of get, you don't even really get 6 power because unless you're giving this guy haste, that's, this guy doesn't get to swing that turn. So you're giving 2 other creatures. No, it just says up to 2 target creatures. So you could give this guy, if you did give this guy haste some way, you could give it to himself. Indestructible's all right. It's no trample. It'd be better if this had trample, but it probably wouldn't be a black card then if it gave trample. I don't know. Honestly, seems like a lot of mana to probably get blown out. You'd think with a name like Kennel Master and seeing a wolf here, like maybe this guy would give you some wolf tokens. He doesn't do that. I don't know. I don't think he's all that great. I'll give him. He's probably one of the better cards we've seen today, though, compared to the other things we've seen. Let's go ahead and give this guy a. I think the cost is actually bugging me a lot. 5 mana is a lot in Pauper. You can do a lot of cool stuff for 5 mana. And I don't think this is the coolest stuff. I'll give this a 2.1. Next up, we've done this one. I know we always see this one. It's the first card. It is alphabetically, canonically, the first card that we always see every episode. But I also feel like we have done +2 mace, where the equipped creature gets +2/+2. The mace is a 1 and a white for an artifact. The equipment equips for 3. That is pretty darn normal and not all that exciting. Wouldn't get a very good score, but I think I'm going to skip this one anyway. I'm almost positive we've done +2 mace. It's a cute joke, I guess, to have +2 mace as a Magic card, but I also don't like such a generic, boring card being the first card alphabetically for Magic, especially for Magic Pauper. I don't know if it's the complete. I guess we can check that out, can't we? I'm not gonna do a search for every Magic card. That doesn't sound like a smart idea. We'll just skip this one and move on. Bamboozling Beeble is a single blue mana for an Unfinity card, but it is legal. So let's talk about it. It's 1/1 Beeble. It's got protection from robots, which I guess is not irrelevant. We've been getting more and more robots lately with more UB products, so I don't know. But for a single mana and tapping this creature, the next time target player would roll 1 or more dice this turn. Instead, they roll that many dice +1, and you choose one of those rolls to ignore. I think this is probably pretty interesting for very specific commander decks. And outside of that, nothing that matters. And Pauper is not a commander. Pauper is not a commander format. It is a Pauper format. And therefore, I would say this card does not matter. Is this our 5th? Yeah, this is our 5th card so far. I'll give this I'm going to give this a 1.6, and I think most of that is the protection from robots. And maybe also just a tiny bit is future-proofing if they would add more dice rolling cards in the Pauper rarity. Maybe this thing gets a little better. So that's where the 1.6 comes from. But this is a bad card. Energy Tap. Oh, classic. Just a absolute stone cold classic from Legends. Energy Tap is a single blue mana for a sorcery. It says tap target untapped creature you control. If you do, add an amount of colorless mana equal to that creature's mana value. This was Ramp the Blue way, and it wasn't very good. Tapping down the creature, and blue does not have a lot of amazing creatures to begin with, so if you're in a mono blue deck, this probably does even worse than you'd hope it would. This would be pretty decent in like a Simic deck, though, right? Because you have big, beefy green creatures that you can then use Energy Tap on, but also You're in green if you're in Simic, so don't worry about ramping this way. You can ramp the green way, the better way, the more effective way, the more affecting the course of the game way. So where does this come into play? I guess it can work if you have some big creatures with downsides. You know, we've seen what was the Cerberus card? Let's just take a quick look at it. Cerberus. There you go, Slumbering Cerberus. That's oh, never mind. I guess we haven't looked at this card before, but we've seen cards that are like this, where it's a 4/2, or it's got a big power, not a very big toughness, and it has some kind of drawback where it doesn't, like this one doesn't untap, but we have other cards that kind of do similar things. So here's a card that you put down that has big power and toughness, or at least big power. No, wait, never mind. I keep saying power. It's not power. It's mana value. I read mana value. What am I doing? So this is even worse, right? You can't even cheat out power stuff. It is just kind of a blue ritual, and not a particularly good one, even though just look at the card. Just look at the colors pop on the Legends version. This is a hell of a thing. This is in my white border cube, and I love it. But man, it is actually a pretty bad card. It's certainly not very usable in Pauper. I'll give this I'm gonna give it like a 1.8 because it is ramp. It does cost 1 blue mana, so you can potentially get a pretty decent return on this. It's still not very good. That actually makes me really sad. We just did this one. I'm pretty sure we just did Inspiring Roar for 3 and a white. It's a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. I'm not going to count it. I'm almost positive we've done it. So pretty decent card, but we can skip. Grazing Gladeheart is 2 and a green for a 2/2 Antelope. With Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, you can gain 2 life. Landfall decks are not super plentiful in Pauper. The ones that there kind of are ones that play like Sabatender, which deals a damage to an opponent when you put a land down. I think the life gain ones like this one are not super impactful. A 2/2 for 3, not amazing, and it is at least incremental life gain that you can pretty solidly get most turns in the game, because you should be drawing enough cards where you can mostly play a land every turn, especially if you are specifically a landfall deck. And if you are putting in your fetch lands, your Evolving Wilds, your Terramorphic Expanses, your Modern Horizons fetch lands, those all can put in 2 lands a turn, and that gives you 4 life. Okay, now we're kind of talking a little bit, but it's still, at the end of the day, a 3 mana 2/2, and that never feels good, especially in green, where you can get so many bigger and better statted creatures in for 3 mana. So I will give this I got 2.2. It's also pretty bad. I'll bump it up to a 2.3, but it's still not great. Horde Robber is 1 and a black for a 1/3 Tiefling Rogue. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. That's almost kind of good. You have to get in, and this doesn't have any form of evasion on its own, but 1/3 is not a terrible stat line for 2 mana, especially in black. That's actually okay. This blocks a decent amount of stuff, and if it can get through, then you're ramping. Ritualing. I don't know. I don't specifically know what you would call getting treasures. I guess it's technically not ramp, but it's ramp. Come on, you know it. It's all right. I think generally you'd want this to maybe cost 1 more and have menace. I mean, you wouldn't want it to cost 1 more, but you'd understand if it cost 1 more and had menace, and then you could get in a little bit more effectively and get that treasure token. As it is, I think it's all right. You're in black. You could just destroy all their creatures and get in. If you had a way to give this vigilance, that would make even more sense. You know, it's got a decent butt, so you block with it, and then you just pop in, do a damage, get another treasure, do something with it. I don't know. It's okay. I don't think you put it in a deck, in many decks anyway, if any, honestly. But it's, I don't know, not terrible. I will give it a 2.4. No, 2.5. 2.5. A little bit better. Butcher's Glee is 2 and a black for an instant that says target creature gets +3/+0 and gains lifelink until end of turn, and you regenerate it. Cost too much. Cost too much. It was so close. I think this is a pretty nice set of stats. +3/+0, lifelink, regenerate. So if you're going into a fight that you're going to lose, you at least get to keep the creature. You gain at least 3 life off of this exchange, and you probably get not even a trade. Because you regenerate your creature, it doesn't die. It's not destroyed. This is a really nice combat trick. 3 mana is too expensive. If you took off a mana and this only gave +1/+0 on lifelink, I'd be a little bit more interested in this. As it is, I don't know. It's just another really expensive. Yeah, you're expecting me to hold up 3 mana? I guess. I don't know. You could play this in offense and defense. On offense, you're swinging in before you've used any of your mana most times. So you at least have the option to cast this. I don't know. I think there's just better cards. It's just the opportunity cost of having to have this 3 mana combat trick. I don't really want to pay 3 mana for my combat tricks. That's expensive. That's expensive. We'll give this I'm going to give it a 2. It should be so much better, but it's not. I'll give it a 2. Move on to our final official card of the day. It is Kithkin Shield Dare. For 1 and a white, you get a 1/1 Kithkin Soldier. And you can pay a white and tap it. Target blocking creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Not amazing. I love the art. I don't love a lot of the Kithkin cards, but I do kind of like the Shadowmoor ones where they get the glowy eyes. Those I do dig, and I like this armored looking Kithkin here. I think that's pretty cool. But the effect itself, a 1/1 for 2 mana, I'm already not loving. And then having to pay another mana and tap this guy. It only works on blocking creatures. I suppose in Commander, it's maybe a fun political thing to do, to put it on your opponent's target blocking creature when a different opponent is attacking them. That could be kind of fun. I do really want to make a mono white commander deck, and I already have 2 mono white commander decks, so I'm kind of disinclined to make a third. But I do want to make a mono white commander deck that is basically all this kind of stuff, like all little political tricks that I can play that, as long as you're not attacking me, I can make things easier for you. What if I helped you do something, and then I'll continue just building little value for myself and just, calling in favors. And I know eventually somebody gets pissed off and they just hit you with everything and then you die, because what are you going to do? But I think cards like this are kind of fun. In Pauper, they are nigh useless, and we'll end up giving this like a 1.3. It's maybe even worse than that. This might just be a 1. This really might be a 1. The opportunity cost on it is just too high. Let's do a bonus card to finish off the day right. We'll finish the day, not start. We will finish with Convicted Killer. 2 and a red for a 2/2 human werewolf. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform this creature. So, does not have day-night. Shadows of Innistrad did not have the day-night system, but they essentially had what day-night was codified into. But you don't have to continue tracking day-night when this thing's on the field. Or when this thing's off the field, I mean. Which is nice. That is an improvement, although it means there has to be a lot of text on both sides of this card, despite it really just being day-bound and night-bound. So if you are able to transform this card, it becomes Branded Howler, which is a 4/4 werewolf. At the beginning of each upkeep, if the players cast 2 or more spells last turn, transform this creature. So basically a vanilla transforming card. So it's 2/2 for 3, and then it becomes a 4/4 for 3. Obviously, the 4/4 for 3 is pretty good rate-wise, and the 2/2 for 3 is pretty bad rate-wise. I don't want to play this card, and I don't think you should either. I will give this a 1.1, and you know what? I want another one. Give me one more bonus card, and maybe it'll be something real nice. It's Esper, at least. I do like Esper. Shards of Alara, it is Windwright Mage for a white, a blue, and a black. That is Esper mana. It is an artifact creature, human wizard. It's 2/2. It's got lifelink, and this creature has flying as long as an artifact card is in your graveyard. That's not the worst thing I've seen. It's also by Chippy. Chippy does some excellent art. A 2/2 lifelinker for 3 mana that sometimes has flying. I think I could get behind that. A 2/2 lifelinker that sometimes has flying that costs 3 different pips of mana. I'm not as into. That is a lot of very specific colored mana, which Pauper decks can do. There are even Esper decks in Pauper, but it's mostly like the third color is a splash. Mostly. Some decks do color fixing better than others, but I don't know if this card is worth dedicating yourself to 3 colors. And the Esper decks that are out there are not really doing are not really gelling with this or synergizing with this card. You know, those decks like Esper bounce decks that are really only splashing blue so they can play Cryogen Relic. Those do have artifacts. You can send those artifacts to the graveyard. You can send Cryogen Relic to the graveyard. And then this has flying. It's something. But those are decks, again, that want to bounce. They want to bounce things. Here's a creature that doesn't have an ETB trigger on it. That's really just a 2/2 flying lifelinker at its best. You know, those decks want to do little trickier things with their plays. You want to keep picking up your Thraben Inspectors so you can keep making clue tokens. You want to keep bouncing and replaying your Tithing Blades or your Grim Baubles so you can remove creatures. Those decks just don't have room for a 2/2 flying lifelink. Especially when it costs this. When it costs actual Esper mana to play. There's a lot I like about this card, but it's just not good enough at the end of the day. And we'll give it a... I'll give it a 2. We will end it there. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you next time.